Well, Deputy, if you don't mind, sorry,
Oh,
if
you're good.
you wouldn't mind opening us up in prayer, then we'll go ahead and
Okay.
get started.
All right. Well, if everybody will bow with me, we'll go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, once again, we come to you so grateful, so thankful for the many blessings that you give us. This time of fellowship, Lord, and the love that you fill our hearts with. Lord, we just ask that you continue to bless this nation, bless this group of people that do so much work outside of the Cherokee Nation for our people. Lord, we just ask that you fill our vessels with the fruit of your Spirit, Lord, and help us to remember those out there that are less fortunate than one another. And also, Lord, help us to understand the bond that we have gained through the relationship with you and how that exponentially affects the relationships that we have with one another. Lord, just fill us with your love, your grace, and your mercy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
What ODEP, I certainly appreciate that. I did see that the chief is coming on now. So, Chief, welcome. And if you would like to speak, now is the time. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Kevin, OCO, everyone. Appreciate everyone's time and participation on our at-large advisory committee. First off, we've had some really wonderful at-large gatherings. I mean, really, they've all been wonderful since we resumed them a little more than a year ago. I think we began a year ago going out to California, to Central and Northern California. So now we've made our second visit out there, and the attendance still very, very good. I can't recall, Kevin, how many we had over the California weekend, but it was a huge number. Kansas was really incredible. I think we had 1,600, 1,800 maybe folks attend Kansas, and had a wonderful recent visit to Texas, to Dallas, Fort Worth area. So they've all been good, and appreciate the efforts by the host at-large organizations to really make those happen. Of course, we'll continue those. Atlanta, Georgia's coming up, and Atlanta was one that for years had been a relatively small attendance compared to a lot of the other communities. But last year it was very well attended, and hopefully it'll continue to be so this year. So the events, I think, from my perspective, have gone well. But again, it's really attributable to the staff of CCO and to the host organizations who do the legwork to make those events work. And I think Kevin has lost track of how many times he literally has had to order pizza because we just ran out of food, and he keeps ordering more food. Then we keep running out of food. So that's the good problem to have, but he continues to be ready with his Domino's account. And, he's probably earned a couple of free pizzas along the way. You've earned it, Kevin, though. I want you to keep those pizzas. Those are for you. But so the at-large events have gone well. The grant program, the community impact grant, every at-large organization, I believe, had participated. I think down to every organization, and that's good. And we're looking forward to seeing how those are implemented. And I suspect at this point some organizations have already started implementing those. But we appreciate it, and we're encouraged to hear the different ideas that you had. Of course, those grants are available and are being used by grants or by organizations on the reservation for similar purposes. So it's good to see those ideas take root, whether it's here at home or across the country. I know this is all on your agenda today. I've seen the agenda, but I'm particularly excited about the history course that will be coming back. We're starting it locally in Veneta, actually, is the first round, but this is one that will be going at large as well. In-person history course instruction. Catherine Foreman Gray and the folks at Cherokee Nation Cultural Tourism are managing that effort. Of course, they'll work with CCO in terms of working with you, because you all, if you're willing, and so far I think organizations have been excited about it, will be host to the history course when it comes to your community. One thing to bear in mind is it's taken some period of time to just develop the course, and it will take some period of time to get the course out to whether it's a community close to home or across the country. That just will take time. We will get, I think, better at it in terms of scheduling as time goes by. And the only issue is just experience, building that experience of getting a venue, having the instructor available to provide the instruction and the materials. So bear with us, but I think we've got every reason to think this will be a great success, and every reason to think that people in your communities want to get this sort of information and get this sort of experience. I think that's what we consistently heard, was that the lack of an in-person history course was really a void, particularly in the at-large communities where there's just relatively less opportunity to engage with your nation on matters of culture and history. And I remember from all of the earliest times I traveled at large when I was in a different position, Secretary of State, and there was this real positive, good feeling about the history course that Dr. Julia Coates had brought out before she was a council member. Some organizations actually organized themselves around that course. And it was something that people had these really good memories about. And it did seem like that was a void or a gap that we ought to try to fill. And this is our effort to try to fill it. Of course, we live in an age now in which you can access a great deal of information virtually, electronically, and those are good. And we need to continue to develop those. But I think, there's no substitute for that in-person experience. Cherokees talking with Cherokees about history, really hard to replicate that in a virtual format. So that's why we felt that an in-person experience would be good. Likewise, in-person language instruction is coming to at-large communities. And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we had been working to try to identify that first at-large community to bring this out. And it may be that we've done that, and I could be behind in terms of where we are on that, but I know there was a lot of work being done on finding that community to get started with. And I'd yield to you if you know an update on that. I hate to shortcut our agenda here. I know it's on your agenda, but is that something we've scheduled yet?
We don't have a scheduled event yet, but we've reached out to several organizations and including folks on this list. So we're waiting to hear back, and so we can have definitive plans.
Great. And I think that whether it's the history course or the language course, or what I'm going to mention in a moment concerning art and culture, those probably are good events to organize around. So as hosts, organizations, the at-large community can also maybe draw some attendance, which hopefully in turn will draw some new members or some members that maybe weren't as active as we'd like them to be. And this gives them a basis to stay more engaged. So that brings me to the third really in-person opportunity that's still in development, but last year, the deputy chief and I had proposed legislation to the council, and the council approved it, called the Artist Recovery Act. And the reason we proposed is because a lot of our artists during the pandemic struggled economically because the art world changed in terms of how people purchased art. For some artists, they were able to really take advantage of the fact that a lot of art shows and galleries and purchasing opportunities were done online. But for many of our artists, that's not how they sell art. They sell art through an in-person experience, and even not how they teach art. Art is through an in-person experience, which again, like the history course, it's hard to substitute virtual for in-person when it comes to Cherokee art and culture. So it was $3 million, and it's designed to do a few things. One is to help artists regain their foothold in the economy, or maybe get one for the first time, a real foothold. So part of what we're going to do is help artists with how they market their art, how they access streams of commerce in this day and age. Like I say, for many artists, they just weren't accustomed to doing that. Some of them very good at it. Some of them, that's just not how they sold art online, et cetera. We'll have a database, a comprehensive database of all of our artists, which can be used for marketing so that anybody in the world who wants to know about genuine Cherokee art can access a database of people who produce it and create it. And that's something that's missing right now. And we want that to be as comprehensive as possible. But the other piece that I think might be particularly of interest to at-large organizations is we want to create more opportunity for artists, particularly Cherokee National Treasures, to go teach art and to teach this new generation what they know and what they've honed as their art and craft and skills. And so the opportunity to do more of that at large is something that I think meets an interest that a lot of at-large citizens have expressed, a lot of at-large organizations have expressed, and a lot of our artists have expressed opportunities to do that. It's a way for artists to earn some money to do the teaching, and it's a way for, again, people to get exposure, maybe even for the first time to some of these great artists and their creations. So that's something we're encouraged about, and I think it also is something you all, if there's interest, can be the host of and sort of build some organizing around. So that's in development as well. The same group, Cherokee Nation Cultural Tourism, which is managing the history course, and they do such a good job. If you enjoy our museums in person, or if you enjoy our museums virtually, as we have virtual content, if you go to visitCherokeeNation.org, I believe is the website, Visit Cherokee Nation. That's all C&B Cultural Tourism. They do a very good job of those sorts of opportunities and offerings. So look for that. There was already one of the Cherokee National Treasure basket weavers had already reached out, interested in, under the Artist Recovery Act, going specifically at large. And we absolutely want to encourage our artists who want to go at large to do it, because again, as you know, locally, there's many more opportunities to encounter these folks, see art shows and galleries, but at large, less so. And so I think we make a particular effort to support our artists who want to go to the at-large communities. Also on the subject of art, and I want to express my appreciation because I know a number of you on this Zoom have done so. And in fact, at this point, I think nearly 2,000 Cherokee citizens have done so, and that is asking the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs to amend the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. And if I could, Kevin, I promise I'll be brief and conclude here because I know you have a full agenda. But the Indian Arts and Crafts Act protects Indian artists. It's a truth in advertising law, and it says that if I'm a great basket weaver, which I'm not, but if I was, and I was a Cherokee and I marketed my art as a Cherokee basket, that I could label it as such, and that it would be illegal for somebody who's not a member of a federally recognized tribe to label their art as Cherokee art. Unfortunately, the Indian Arts and Crafts Act, which has been on the books more or less in its current version for over 30 years, also includes state tribes. Now, state tribes are not legitimate tribes. They may petition for federal recognition, but if I was, again, this idea that I was some great Cherokee artist and had my art, and that's how I made my living, and this was something passed down to me, say, for generations, and I'm making my living creating baskets or other art, my work of art sits right next to something labeled the same as mine, Cherokee art, only it's made by someone who paid $60 to join the Four Winds Cherokees of Louisiana. Everybody on here knows that that organization is phony as a $3 bill in terms of being an Indian tribe, but the country doesn't know that. The public doesn't know that. Art consumers don't know it. And yet Congress created that problem by including state tribes in that federal law. So the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs has announced that they will review and make potentially some specific changes to the Indian Arts and Crafts Act in a piece of legislation called the Artist Act of 2023. The Senate's not considering presently striking state tribes from the law, but we're asking them to. I had asked them to, our deputy chief had asked them to, and we've asked for your help. We've asked for Cherokee citizens' help, and we're utilizing the good Gadugi portal as a convenient way that if you want to, you can go there. There's a template letter. I think somebody in the chat has put some information, and you could pretty easily write the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, write your own member of Congress. Right now, it's presently in the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. Nothing to stop you from writing your local member of the House or one of your two senators or both, just to raise the issue. But right now, understand that it's in the committee. And it's a bit of an uphill climb because, again, this proposed legislation doesn't address this at all. We're just trying to get the Senate to address it. And of course, we've engaged our government relations department led by Kim Teehee to help us do that. So if you see us raising awareness on this issue, this is why. And my sense, my feeling is that anywhere that federal law gives a safe harbor to organizations that are posing as Cherokee, it's a danger to so many other areas. I mean, you've heard stories about the issue with federal contracting and how for a period of time there were state tribes that were essentially availing themselves of some particular protections and benefits of federal contracting. Most people who read it come away with the sense that that's wrong, and it is wrong. So anywhere we can stamp out these safe harbors, my belief is we have to do it. Just because I believe it doesn't mean it's gospel. People have some different views on this. I think most Cherokees that I talk about this issue with see it the same way when there's an understanding that we're talking about potentially 50 sets of laws that are politically driven that allow organizations, again, to sell membership to become a Cherokee, when everybody on here that's a Cherokee citizen knows that that has been something that's been hard fought, nearly lost, and is particularly sacred and has a particular meaning under the law, and it should. So that's my last issue, Kevin, is just to encourage people to look more into this issue of the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. And if you see fit, help us out and speak out. With that, I'll yield back. I'd love to stay on for a bit longer. I know you have a full agenda, but I appreciate everybody's time. And I want you to know that I do value greatly this committee, the feedback that we get. It's helped us shift some of the things that we do and identify some opportunities. And there's surely more things we can do based on the feedback from this committee. And I always like to put in a plug for Patsy, because years ago, Patsy Yeager had said, I really think that Cherokee Nation should do more to engage Cherokees civically, particularly those of us who live at large. And she was right then and she's right now. And so anything you see us do in terms of civic outreach was really born of Patsy saying, we ought to do this. And took a little while, Patsy, but we got there, and I hope that it's meeting your expectations. And but anytime there's an issue that you all think we ought to pursue, please let us know, because I think it's made a difference. I think it's made a difference on our quest to get the delegates seated, even though we're not there yet. And I think it could make a difference on Indian Arts and Crafts. And I think there's an untold number of potential opportunities in the future that will need grassroots support. Thank you all.
Watto, Chief, and I use it frequently, and it's easy to use.
Great. That's what I was hoping to hear. Thanks, Patsy.
Hello, Chief. Hey, I'm inviting questions for the Chief right now. If anyone has questions.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you so much, Chief, because one of the things that I have heard locally is they want the history class. They actually want more culture and art. And, we did a beading class in Los Angeles a couple months ago. I could not find a local Cherokee beader. So we had a beading class, but it wasn't led by Cherokees. So if we can have, access to some of our national treasures, I mean, that's so important to us. So thank you for the grant. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for everything that you're doing. Wado.
Same to you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Great. That's fantastic. And that's, what you can use some of that 25,000 for, to invite those folks out, as well as, you can also have additional conference attendees or holiday attendees if you want to pay for part of that for a couple of people. But anyway, Wado, Chief. Now, Deputy, if you'd like to share with us, we'd love to have you. And I would like to say that, the administration has been kind of I'll say, Unetli Nahi sent through this pandemic, and we were in great hands because of what this administration has done, in concert with the Tribal Council. So what don't.
Well, thank you, Kevin and Siona God. I hope everyone is doing wonderful today. Good to see everybody. I really appreciative of the Chief and the way that he covers a lot of different things. I want to bring you up to speed on some events that are happening here that and basically these things are starting, but they're kind of going out into the at-large community, and that is our first and foremost. In a couple of weeks, we'll be sending off our Remember the Removal riders this year. I know everybody's familiar with that bike ride. Talk about being enriched in culture and all these different things, because along the way, these young ladies, and I say young ladies because all of our riders are all young ladies, and it's exciting to see our strong Cherokee women, our matrilineal society, retracing those steps and being able to go along with former Councilman Jack Baker to many of these sites, along with other individuals, to really take in not only the historical knowledge, but understanding how to deal with our own emotions in these things. These things are very, very important to live in balance, as our wise elders tell us. We had not too long ago, we had the NSU symposium, and I got to moderate a panel. And the whole idea around this panel was, what is an elder? And they talked about wisdom. And they talked about, it's not age specific, but it's about the substance that individual has. It's about not just the knowledge, but what do they do with the knowledge at important times of a storm, times in the calm. And so I know that these young ladies will come back, no doubt, more wise, more balanced, and so forth. But that is coming up. That's something that we're always excited about. Also, too, something I'm excited about. I've got a friend. I call him affectionately Brother Bun. His name is Simeon Gibson. He's from the Bull Hollow area. And Simeon is somebody, he worked for the BIA. He worked for the tribe. He's done different things over time in life. He found himself out of shape, diabetic, all those issues. And one day, Simeon decided to take up bike riding. And now he's been a part of the Oklahoma Senior Games. He's been a part of the National Senior Games, and they're kind of highlighting him this year. He's had some stuff in National Geographic. He's had some articles in Men's Health, and here's a strong Cherokee man that bikes. And if you're ever on the res and you're here in the Tahlequah area, you look ahead and you may see this. It looks like a young man riding this bike, and you roll up beside him. There's Simeon in all of his wonder and his glory of his 70s, riding strong. And so we're going to send him off the day before. We're working on this. Chief, this may be brand new news. I know we got the calendar event out to you, but we're trying to do a send-off for Simeon, because he is going to be featured at the National Senior Games, and he's proud of his Cherokee heritage. He wants us to be a part of this. So we're going to have a small send-off for him the day before and some stuff. But Simeon is riding his bike. Instead of flying out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Simeon is riding from here in Park Hill, Tahlequah, Oklahoma, all the way to Pennsylvania. So very phenomenal feat. His son's going to go along the way with him. He's got stops. Simeon's brother is Saul Moccasin. Some of you may know Saul and may remember Saul from the inauguration. He is the individual that introduced me. He is, when I talk about wise elders, that's the one, one of my special elders that is special to me and to many. But Saul and them, they lived in Bull Hollow. They grew up in Oaks, and they have a rich history with Oaks and that birthplace of the New Spring place that they call it, and as the Moravians came across, and then as the Lutheran missionaries. So they've been able to set up key points along the way. I know people start thinking about safety, different things. The churches will be taking care of Mr. Simeon along the way, but that's a couple of special events that just happen to reside around cycling, and you've got two different eras. You've got the youth of the nation that are going on this trip with their mentor riders as well. One young lady, she is 40 years old, and she has joined this ride. So it's very important that we bridge those gaps. But also today, just to give you a little update, we Chief and I both spoke with some state officials with the USDA. We will continue, as always, to collaborate with federal and state partnerships and figure out ways to better harness those resources for our tribal citizens. Our big push is along the front of food sovereignty. And what does that mean to our tribe? What does that mean to our people? So we still continue those efforts with the USDA really could help. This not just within the reservation, but this is our at-large Cherokee citizens. We've got young men and women that are graduating high school, that are going into college, that are graduating college, that are looking for internships, and you know, and sometimes to make good federal partners out of these agencies, we need to inject more Cherokees, more people from Indian country. So I will never stop trying to get individuals excited about all these different departments and all these things, because when we go as the Cherokee government to visit with these agencies, to look at tribal set aside dollars, to fight for these dollars, to increase those, whether that's the CDC, whether that's HHS or any USDA, any other agency, it always helps when we have friends that are on the other side of that are there, that are working, that understand things from a point of view. So I think this is something that our at-large citizens could get behind and increase our efforts in their area and really all across Indian country, because when it comes to these things, our interest first and foremost is of the Cherokee Nation, but we have to always remember our neighbors, our brothers and sisters from other tribes, because we've all fought together. Our ancestors did when they were talking about how can we get investments in Indian country and those tribal set aside dollars. So those things are very, very important in moving forward. Big part of this week and as many this month is graduation month. Our Sequoia students this week went through the halls of the complex, and you know, and these are not just Cherokee students. These are individuals from all over Indian country here, and we get to foster and nurture education in a special way that is culturally centered and so forth. So it's really important. So Friday's the big graduation day. I got to spend some time at breakfast with our senior grads this year. I have a senior grad. He's graduating from Salsa High School. Just so this class for me is kind of extra special in the way that we send them off and start teaching them about knowledge and the difference in knowledge and that wisdom. So just trying to impart as much of that experience to those individuals as we can. But educational opportunities, you've seen in the news, you know, where we're working to strategically increase scholarshiping over time, looking for new ways to get more each year. We try to provide more for at-large citizens, whether that's through the foundation, through the government side. I'm always willing. Put this out there. I've helped several seniors this year and different individuals from all over, really, for letters of recommendation, reference, filling out these things for scholarshiping. It's important. We love to do these things for our students, whether it's a Cobell scholarship form or any other thing. Just always looking towards helping out those individuals that are ready to hit the ground running on the other side of our fondest memories of our childhood. But we want to make sure that we foster that. But Kevin, that's really what I want to share this morning. I know you've got a busy agenda, and we've got some other things coming up. But I want to say wado to each of you for the efforts that you undertake out there, and just know that we're here. We're listening. My at-large travel has been wonderful. Met with hospitality. Can't wait to try to get to each and every place. My family, if I bring them along as much as possible. My wife Mako. My oldest son, Caden, my middle son, who just turned 13, Luke, and then my youngest, his birthday is Sunday. He will be a big 8 years old. So, man, you're going to talk about birthday parties. That one better be something special, you know. So, but anyway, wado, and thank you so much. Thank you, Kevin.
Wado, Deputy. I will just say that I think my socks are older than that. But anyway. Wado. Does anyone have questions or comments for the deputy? Great. Well, now Delegate Teehee is joining us, and so we'd like to hear from her, please.
Good afternoon. I'm actually on the road this afternoon, and so I apologize for not having my camera on. Kevin, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, great.
Okay, great. So we've, as you can well imagine, have been very busy at Cherokee Nation. The government relations team continues to work proactively on a number of priority areas in the state as well as federal levels. We did have, importantly, some bills that we had introduced for us pass the state legislature by supermajorities. I mean, they were phenomenal votes, but guess what? We have a governor of the state that vetoed each of them. One of those bills would have been a bill that would have protected the rights of Native American students to wear their tribal regalia and other cultural items during school graduation ceremonies. So now, as a result of that messaging that a veto sends, schools across the state are preventing our Native students from even wearing the most basic feathers on their caps. And so another bill that was passed by supermajority and then vetoed was a bill that would have prevented the expiration of the Oklahoma Advisory Council on Indian Education. That's a council that we have fought for, supported, and have sought nominations to. And so that's another bill that without a new law authorizing it will expire very soon. Another bill that was adopted and then vetoed would have required sex offenders residing within the reservations to register with tribal law enforcement, in addition to the state and local law enforcement agencies that they're already required to register with. So we are presently engaged in trying to get our various compacts extended in the state legislature as well. And again, we have the governor who is hindering that effort, despite our own willingness to forge a productive partnership with the state. We have, as you know, election coming up. And so you all who are at-large voters should have already received your absentee ballots in the mail. You can either get those notarized or have a witness sign on, and then and I think you have to then get scanned copies of your IDs to turn in with the ballot when you send it in. Early voting takes place May 27th, 30th, 31st, and June 1 from 7 to 7. I think Deputy Chief talked about the USDA outreach that we've done. We've had several outreach sessions during COVID and after, either virtually or in person. And I'm proud to say that we're one of the locations that USDA consistently reaches out to host in-person meetings for our local farmer and ranchers and such. And I think Chief Hoskin put into the chat another project that we've undertaken that is USDA. We're the only tribe in the country to have been asked to facilitate the distribution of these one-time $600 payments to eligible agricultural and meat packing workers for the unexpected costs that they incurred during COVID. And so those are, again, considered farm and food worker grants. And so we have more information about that on our website too. And you're welcome to go in and see if you are eligible for such a payment. And so we have a pretty robust outreach effort underway with both within the state, but across the country. This is just not limited to Oklahomans. This is natives who live outside of the state. Obviously we want our Cherokee citizens to get in there and try to get the one-time payment. Once the money runs out, it's gone. We continue to advocate for our priorities in Congress too. The Farm Bill is one of those things that we're working on. We've had trips to DC. We participate in the tribal, there's a national tribal working group to discuss these very issues in the Farm Bill and to engage with Congress, both on a regional level, but also we come together and collectively advance our priorities, which are pretty consistent across Indian country. Mostly we're seeking better opportunities and greater flexibilities in administering USDA dollars and being eligible for those dollars as well. We continue to push for the reauthorization of the special diabetes program for Indians. And so we've been communicating with the Hill on the reauthorization there. We've been monitoring very closely the debt limit. You might wonder why the debt limit would have any bearing on us. Well, in multiple ways. One is some of the proposals being discussed in Congress is the possibility of across the board cuts, taking the budget process down to early 2020 levels as much as 25% across the board discretionary funding cuts. Those impact us because majority of federal dollars that flow to Indian country are in fact discretionary dollars. The most recent proposal would claw back unobligated COVID funding at agencies. That's nearly 1.5 billion in Indian directed dollars. That means Indian Health Service, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and Bureau of Indian Education, the unobligated funding that they're holding on to, that there's no way they can get it out in the next couple of weeks. But that is something that's on the table, as well as clawing that back in order to address the debt limit. So that's something we're fighting against, and have sent letters and communicated with the White House, OMB, Indian Health Service, Department of the Interior, and our champions in Indian country as well. We hosted the HHS Assistant Secretary for Health very recently and toured our facilities, as well as talked about our drug addiction behavioral programs as well. We have a youth summit coming up on May 24th in Tahlequah. I'm proud to say that the youth summit agenda was formed with the input of youth, the younger teenagers, as well as older teenagers, as well as incorporating elders into every facet of the conference as well. We have, Chief mentioned earlier, our efforts to remove state recognized tribes from the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. And I did put a letter up in the chat that we are asking our citizens to use and to send to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs as they seek comment on this particular letter. We do have a lot of efforts underway. The Intertribal Council of the 5 tribes passed a resolution opposing the state recognized tribes in whatever iteration finally comes out as an actual bill. And other organizations are following suit as well. And so we're hoping that has great impact and that we finally will strike state recognized tribes. And we know that, as Chief talked about, our efforts to get our artists as much visibility as possible, giving them more opportunities, that these state recognized artists take away those opportunities. And majority of them are seeking the gold standard, which is the status of federal recognition. So we are actively leading this effort, actively seeking support for our effort to remove state recognized tribes from the federal law. On delegate, we continue to work with our delegation. The change in majority in the House of Representatives means that Tom Cole, who's a Chickasaw citizen, is also from Oklahoma and is the current chair of the House Rules Committee, which has jurisdiction over delegate. He has asked for our help to help educate the R's. If you recall, we had put a lot of focus, especially with the on both sides of the aisle, but given that the Democrats are in the majority, we really focused on leadership, committee staff, and we're doing the same in this new Congress where the Republicans are in charge. And so we have, we're trying to fill gaps, where there's an educational gap. But in addition to that, we continue to galvanize support throughout the country. I was just in Palo Alto, just after actually the California at-large visits, where the high school seniors at that high school unveiled a mural that is in my image, but it's really a reflection of treaty rights, supporting our particular treaty right to seat a delegate, and they created postcards with the mural on it for citizens to send to their members of Congress. They did a really fantastic job in promoting this. And then the junior class coming up have already met with me, and because they want to begin this project as well as they go into their senior year. So we're really excited about that. The University of Oklahoma student government also passed a resolution supporting delegate. And some of these efforts are underway without our asking, which we love, right? We think youth especially is as an untapped source for support. And so we're going to continue to galvanize at that level as well. Upcoming programs, so stay tuned. There's a MSNBC program called The Culture is Indigenous Women. They've done a series of 3 other The Culture is programs on Black women, Asian Pacific Islander women, Asian women. So I was able to participate in the Indigenous Women program that'll come out in June, as well as a CBS special too. And I don't have dates on either of those. But that's about it for now. And I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. I will say, since I didn't hear any questions, I do have one other update too. We actually have FEMA coming to Cherokee Nation Reservation tomorrow. They've chosen one of our emergency shelters to highlight and to visit in Hulbert, Oklahoma. So we'll be touring them around tomorrow.
Great. I think Wade had a question.
Yeah, can you hear me? I wasn't sure if my mic was working. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, Kim. This is Wade McAllister. I'm from Houston, and I'm over the Texas and New Mexico groups. But I had a quick question about the first few pieces of legislation you mentioned that the governor of Oklahoma had vetoed.
Yes.
Is there a mechanism for since it was a super majority in the legislative branch, were they able to override his veto, or is that dead now in the way the Oklahoma state government runs?
Well, we're certainly, let me see. I'm trying to make sure. Can you guys hear me? I'm trying to make sure I'm not on mute.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So certainly we have asked for the legislature to override the veto. They're still in session. So if overrides take place, that'll be next week. And so we have asked for that to be part of a packet of bills, because there is so much, there's just so much tension right now between the governor's office and a certain leadership within the legislature. And so there's a broader issue at play regarding education funding. And so that is what I think was the foundation for the series of a lot of vetoes. And so as I understand it, it's possible that the legislature may just let a lot of these bills go, but just in case there's a packet that's combining a lot of these bills for an override, we've asked for our bills to be part of those too. So stay tuned.
All right, thank you. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Great. It seems like the governor goes out of his way to be anti-Native American. And anyway, any other questions? Okay. We will continue on with the tribal counselors. So first we'll hear from Julia Coates.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Great.
Okay. All right. I just thank you so much for having this meeting today and hosting this meeting. It's been really enlightening to hear from everybody, and I'm glad to see all of the new initiatives in the Cherokee Nation. And I just think it's a really exciting time. I've been really very gratified by the efforts that this administration has put into the at-large citizens. I think we're seeing a lot of things coming to fruition that we've dreamed of for a long time and maybe made a start in the past, but we're really seeing things happen now. And so to the chief, the deputy chief, to you, Kevin, to Delegate Teehee, you know, the efforts at civic engagement are something that I know I've dreamed of for 15 years. And so it's really wonderful to see all of these things happening. Things have been covered really pretty well, and I don't have a whole lot more to offer except that it may be of interest. I need to get word about this out a little bit better. That former counselor Mary Baker Shaw and I passed a resolution through the Cherokee Tribal Council a few years ago, and then it also went to Tri-Council last year. And in talking about the Artists Act and the protections, it may be useful for individual Cherokee Nation citizens who are artists to present this resolution to any gallery or museum where their work may be displayed, because it's a resolution that orders, or not orders, because we can't really do that, but encourages those kinds of institutions to identify the displays of the artwork by the citizen affiliation those artists. And so that is really trying to separate out those who are citizens of federally recognized tribes from those who have, or are claiming basically an ethnic heritage. That is to say, who are not eligible for citizenship in federally recognized tribes. As you may know, in many museums and many galleries, they will display things along the lines of, just Cherokee or something like that. And so this resolution is really urging those institutions to display, by their governmental affiliation, Cherokee Nation, Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, United Kituwa Band, et cetera, et cetera. And, it's not just Cherokees, but it's people from any tribe. So in the interim, we're hoping that this act can be passed and so forth. But in the interim, this might be a useful resolution for artists in particular to use. So I would just put that out. I think we've got some exciting things going on around mutual aid and mutual assistance within at-large citizens and at-large groups, hopefully. And I'll let Councillor Kidwell talk about that if he cares to. We're at the very, very beginning stages, but this is something, again, that I and other people have dreamed of for a long time. It's going to be difficult for the Cherokee Nation to ramp up certain kinds of resources and so forth to the at-large communities, although we're beginning to do that. But in many other respects, I think there's a lot that we can do within and among ourselves. And I think now is an opportune moment when we've got an ear again in the chief in this administration. And so we're making some moves in that direction as well. We're in the very beginning stages of that. So those are the things that are kind of on my mind these days that have not already been mentioned by others. And I really thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to share some of this for a few moments. Thank you.
No, Councillor. Are there questions? I think Patsy had her hand raised, but she was just waving. Okay, great. Councillor Kidwell.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having us on and allowing me to say a few words. I'm, Dr. Coach there mentioned a couple of things about mutual assistance. We had just got through putting together a nonprofit that is going to basically, and I'll just say in a nutshell, it's going to be a way for this nonprofit to be able to provide our at-large elders and veterans and people in need with the same type of services that our elders and folks receive on the reservation. So we just got this thing put together. We had our first initial meeting. We've got our bylaws put together. We're putting the board of directors together now. And once we get this established, we've 100% envision this going out to the community groups as a way of expansion. We're going to start close, prove the concept here close to the reservation in contiguous counties in Oklahoma, and then we're gonna as soon as we can and as soon as practical start expanding out to the community groups. It's all of our vision, I believe, for the community groups to be strong, vibrant, and grow. And we think this is one way that we'll be able to support that and help that happen. Another thing, and we'll get more information out to you as this comes along. It'll be a little bit before we get it out to the groups. It'll remain close till we prove the concept, utilizing tarot vendors to help do work and using the nonprofit to take donations. But there's another thing that has come up in our recent meetings. I love going to these at-large meetings. I mean, I think I learn more at these meetings than I think I could ever tell anyone else as I grab the mic and say my typical spiel. But one thing, Delegate Teehee mentioned the election that's coming up. One thing we talked, Kevin, if you don't mind me bringing this out into the open now, is trying to make sure that each of the community groups have at least one notary. And the reason why I think that would be beneficial is when we get all these people, because I get people, it doesn't matter who they're voting for. It doesn't matter to me. But when they're calling me asking, in Dallas or Houston or LA or shoot, Georgia for that matter, I've got my ballot here, how do I get this thing notarized? And I know we participate quite often, but you got to remember that there's about a little over 5,000 absentee ballots that went out to at-large citizens in this election right now. So that's a lot of phone calls that Dr. Coates and I receive asking, hey, what do we do with these with this ballot now? And it would be great to be able to send them to the community groups to get those things notarized. I think that it would foster inclusion with those groups. It would make them more well known to people in those areas that may not be participating, but then now see the value and being close to them. So I just wanted to toss that out as a general thought, making sure that we kind of push that idea of notaries in these groups, and I'm sure many of the groups might very well already have these notaries and people who can do that, but making that information more publicly available so that we can send people there. And as we send people to these these locations to get notarized, maybe they participate more in the groups and they see more of the value, kind of the what's in it for me thing. But I won't take up a lot of people's time. I've already sent in my letter for the acts, for the the Arts and Craft Act and the Artists Act of 2023. I hope all that goes through. And civic engagement is very, very, very important to all of us. I think it's something that obviously Dr. Coates had pushed for a long time, and I'm kind of playing catch up a little bit here with it. But man, I see the value in it. I think it's important, and I recommend our at-large citizenry every time I get a chance to grab the mic to go onto our websites and follow that stuff and print up those papers. And man, we make it easy for them. We just need to get it out to more people, I think. And we've got an upcoming event in Georgia. Looking forward to that. And I tell you, man, our events have just been amazing. I'll just say one last thing. When we were in California, one thing that really shocked me in our last 3 California visits, the Fresno, Bakersfield, and then Northern California, is that even after Chief spoke and Delegate T even spoke once, and Dr. Coates and myself, and say a few stories, and even after we eat lunch, people are still there. Man, they are hanging in there. There had to been 300 plus people still in Sacramento as we were picking up chairs and putting things away. And that is just amazing to me. And it proves that the at-large citizenry, man, they are just hungry for connection, and they're more engaged now than in my time. I mean, I think they're more engaged now than I've seen them. And man, it's a blessing to see. I truthfully, I just enjoy seeing it. I love it. And we just got to keep this thing going. I'm sure that we can. And with that being said, Kevin, I'll pass it back to you. Happy to answer any questions. And obviously, email me anytime, and I'll get to you, as soon as humanly possible. But I'll pass the mic back to you, Kevin. Thank you guys very much for allowing me to come on today.
Wado. Any questions from anyone? Okay, well, great. I know that we Cherokees, we like to rub elbows and sit around and talk over lunch and everything like that. I'm a little disappointed that the food that CCO has helped you guys order didn't include bologna at any event, but Chief Baker would definitely be upset by that. But anyway, I appreciate it. So I'm going to continue on. So since we brought up the tribal elections, and I realized before we have another at-large, the elections will be over, and foregoing any runoff. But I just want to make sure that you guys realize that, and I know I've sent a letter to each organization stating as much of the CCO policy, which includes, federal policy as far as engaging in politics as an organization, that in no way takes you as an individual citizen, your voice, your political voice, but you just can't represent your organization because it will endanger, your relationship with the Cherokee Nation as well as with the federal government. So let's try to avoid those issues. And if you have any questions, you can email me at any time. And at the at-large events, folks that I know that are running for office, I approach and tell them that we can't actively solicit votes. So I just need you guys to help me identify those folks when they come out. All right. So we're done. Okay. So the at-large calendar coming up before our next meeting, we'll have Atlanta on 6/17. I must be hungry because instead of ABQ for Albuquerque, I put BBQ on 7/15. So Albuquerque on 7/15, Denver on 7/16. Oklahoma City will be 8/12. We just have venues for Albuquerque and Denver currently. We're working on with probably going back to FAM, the First Americans Museum in Oklahoma City to work out with them for the Oklahoma City event. We don't have venues yet for Portland, Eugene, and Seattle. And I know Tammy Miller works hard with your organizations to coordinate not only events, to try to find event locations, venues, but also the food part. So I have great news, and that is we now have the opportunity, now that the pandemic is a non-emergency, that we can now go back to potlucks. And I know that in the past the CCO has allowed $500 for the main course. We're gonna try to up that, and so once we get approval of that, we will let you know. But so Portland, Eugene will be 8/5, Seattle will be 8/6. Also, we're allowed to move indoors if we can't find an outdoor facility. Cherokees love to be outdoors. That being said, registration does not love to be outdoors. And mainly it's because of their sensitive equipment and a few of their personnel. But hey, I'm just giving the registrar a hard time. Anyway, so you'll have to make sure that we have a good internet reception there so that registration can, do a dynamic link to their database. It's got to have good electricity for these venues when we talk, is what we're talking about. So I'm trying to hurry because I know it's noon right now for us. It's the top of the hour. So we want you to make sure that on the potlucks, we will send out, I don't know if you recall, but before the pandemic, our postcards would have the alphabet at the bottom, and you need to bring something related to your, first letter of your last name. So we'll start sending those out. Albuquerque and Denver won't be that way, or Atlanta won't be that way because we've already made arrangements for that. So Pam Bakke, who's the Cultural Outreach Officer for the conference that's coming up on June the 23rd and 24th, is holding up the lanyard that she and her staff are making. Hold it a little closer. We can't see the colors. So the colors are the color of the medicine wheel, and it's got corn beads on there. And so they have made approximately 716 or 20 of those so far. So that's fantastic to be able to give to everyone that shows up in person there. So Pam?
Count 741 right now.
741. That's great. I would be doing that in my sleep, seeing those beads in my sleep at that point. So each one of them has 7 corn beads on there. So that's great. I would like to recognize that we have a new organization showing up today represented, and that's Chief Bill Anderson from the East Coast Cherokees, and we're working with him to help him grow his community group. So, CO Chief.
Thank you, Kevin, but it's Bill Anthony, not Anderson.
Bill Anthony, I'm sorry. I apologize. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
So Kevin, I do have a question on the CCO conference. I know in the past, this group has gotten invited to as a complimentary ticket and travel to the CCO conference, but I think I got canceled because of COVID. When I asked if this group was being invited again, I was told that we are not, and that was taken out of the budget. So I would just wanted to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, because we've had to buy, box lunches for all of these at-large events. Our events, which we typically had spent $1,200, $1,500 for not only the venue, but also the food item. Now we're spending $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 to provide those, and so our budget has not been increased, and so we're trying to cut corners the way we can, and we would love to have you folks, but I'm afraid we can't sponsor that. But if you show up, we'd love to see you. All right. So the cultural enrichment for the at-large groups. So to just reiterate that CCO provides pays for one person, one representative for each at-large organization that's CCO participating, and others may self-pay, and Tammy Miller will know more information about that. But anyway, after our conference on the 23rd and 24th, which is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we will have cultural enrichment like we typically do, and we've identified a lot of locations and opportunities for that to occur. Like the chief said, our at-large event attendances have grown across the board, 50 to 70%, and so that's fantastic. I think we've increased our outreach streams. We typically would do postcards and emails and texts and phone blasts and social media. So I think that, a lot of that credit goes to the Gadugi portal that is fairly new to us. Therefore, the information is really accurate. We do get cards sent back to us, returned, undeliverable. And so we try to enter that into the database and make that more accurate for next time. So we will need to encourage people to, if they move or change their email address or phone number, go to the Gadugi portal to update that information. Let's see. So for your events, we just want to make another call for vets and elders to honor at your events. I know that we use a QR code now to sign in. I think it's going much better. It's much quicker for us to do that than everyone stand in line to sign in. And we're able to share, a digital copy of that spreadsheet to each organization so that you can reach out easier. I know we used to use those 2-part carbonless paper that you had to interpret somebody's handwriting, and that was a failure. So we're doing it the right way now, and we're encouraged by you guys being able to identify folks that come to our event. It identifies on there those folks that are Cherokee citizens, those folks that are veterans, and those folks that are Cherokee speakers. Now, just because someone self-identifies as a Cherokee speaker doesn't mean they would be officially recognized as a Cherokee speaker until they're approached by language or they approach the language department. And you can do that through me if you know of anyone that thinks they qualify as a Cherokee speaker. So I know we usually have language department go out to these events and to help identify those folks. Anyway, sorry. Let's see. So the chief also spoke about the history course going out, and the Cherokee Nation will cover the costs of that when that occurs in your area. So your organization does not have to put money into that. Same goes with the language courses. You know, I'd like to hear back from each one of the organizations that we've reached out to try to set up a language course. And the way that that's going to work, anyway, so you won't incur any cost. You'll work with Tammy on getting a venue and food, and so we can get all that arranged and paid for prior to the history of the language course coming out. So, so the language course, the way that's going to work is it's going to be basically 2 weeks in succession, and including a long weekend. So we'll have 12 hours during the week prior to, and that will be online. It will be synchronous, so everybody will have to be online to be in that. Anyone is invited to join. The 16 hours that follow will be the weekend following that, and it will be 8 hours for 2 days. And we will provide the venue and the food and drink and all that. So, and then there will be a 12-hour follow-up the week after that, so that it, you know, and yeah, so that you can reinforce your learning. Okay. So that will be provided through the language department, but right now we're trying to coordinate through me to set up when that's going to occur. Okay. So we'll just use me as I'll just be the go-between between the language department and you guys until we can hand that off to the language department. Okay. So are there any questions about any of that? Okay.
Kevin, there was a question in the chat regarding that. Melissa McKee is asking, is there a limit on how many people can attend the in-person classes?
No, I don't know of a limit, but they do limit it to people that do the 12 hours previous. Okay. So you can't just show up to the weekend event and not do the pre or post training as well. Okay. All right. That's what I have to say. I kind of went through it quickly because I know that it's now 10 after the hour. Are there any questions regarding anything that we talked about or the 25,000? I'm going to send out an email today. I'll say that that says that you need to send your receipts. On the original application, it said to send to finance, but now we're wanting you to send the receipts to CCO-grants at Cherokee.org for that 25,000, so that we can help keep track of those expenditures and make sure they're above board. And if you have any questions or concerns, and what I've been telling people is that mainly you can't use any of that money to sponsor anyone. To donate to anyone, and you can't use it for scholarships. Otherwise, it can be used for pretty much anything. And I think the chief has had a good idea about trying to support our national treasures and our Cherokee artisans by perhaps inviting 1 or 2 of those folks out, even historians or genealogists that you want to invite out with that funding. You're welcome to do that.
And when are the receipts due?
They're due in, I want to say September of 24. So you just have to spend all your money and turn in your receipts by, I think it's the last day of September in 24. Any other questions? Are there any new business that anyone wants to bring up? I was going to invite Donnie to say a few words, but I think she's.
Kevin, you just muted yourself.
Sorry. I meant to ask Donnie to say a few words, but I think she may have left already.
She did mention in the chat she's encouraging at-large artists to enter the art show next year.
Okay, great. Oh, Donnie. Anyone else? Pam, do you have anything to add?
I am still working the information together to get presenters sent out to everyone and trying to put them together with presenters that we have. And I was sending out an email asking when you meet, how often and where, and about how many people, so I can make sure I have everything done on it. Thank you.
That's great. I will say that Pam made me this. I've got a little collection of MMIW, and so she made me this just this morning. So I think that's fantastic. Well done, Pam. She's talented far beyond what we can demonstrate in an at-large event. And so she's been a great person to have on board. So Melissa, I think you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. I put it in the chat, but could you tell me the email address to send the receipts to for grant reporting, please?
Yes, it is CCO. I put it in the chat, but CCO-grants.
Oh,
Cherokee.
My apologies. I didn't see it. Thank you so much.
That's okay. No, I just now put it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What up? Anyone else? Well, I appreciate your time.
Kevin,
yeah.
real quick. My understanding though was you don't want the receipts sent in now piecemeal. You want them.
We want them. We want them any way you can do it.
Okay.
We have a new filing system, a digital filing system that makes it a lot easier. So.
Okay. Whatever.
So we usually encourage folks that if you have your hands on that receipt, go ahead and send it in. That way you don't lose it. Because I'll be going through my wallet after our at-large travel and trying to figure out which receipts I need. And anyway. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I don't currently have a date for the next meeting, but it'll be after the conference for sure. And so I hope to see you there. Apologize we can't sponsor you this year. Well, do everyone.
Well, Kevin.
So did I go, huh? E.